Hello everyone. As you know, we usually have our trip for two, but today we chose to interview Mr. Nigel Welch. Hello, thank you for coming.
Hi, Helena.
And the reason why is because, as you know, we're talking about finances and how it influences your relationship and what happens when you lose control and all of it. So we have him here today, and I can't wait, Mr. Welch, to ask you all these questions. And I'm sure that people at home will be greatly helped by your advice because, as you know, the holidays are here and the sales will come next, right after that. And there's so much lack of people. It's like they don't know how to budget anymore. It's buy now, pay later. There's a lot I want to ask you about. But please tell me a little bit more about you. What do you do? And
Well, I'm an independent financial advisor.
Okay.
And I'm a general advisor. So I advise on pensions, investments, savings, and occasional mortgages. Mostly investments. And that's it, really. And I've been an IFA for 18 years, but I've been in the financial world all my life.
Right.
So that's quite a few years.
So you are the right person to ask you these questions.
I'll let you know.
All right. Now, Mr. Welch, as you know, well, we were talking on the show earlier that many couples are breaking up because of finances. And it's one of the main reasons why people get divorced these days.
Sure. Well,
What's your opinion on that?
Well, yes, people get into trouble financially, especially this time of the year. And as we all know, love goes out the window when people are in debt. The trouble is, fortunately, but at Christmas time, people just overspend, buying presents for children, relatives, loved ones, and unfortunately, things nowadays are expensive. Children, toys, and whatever.
Long lists, very
long lists, and you don't want to upset anybody.
Indeed.
And I would say probably 50% of people put their purchases on credit cards, where they don't actually see the money going out, and they think they can pay for it a few months later, and then they might forget about it, and they don't realise they're paying maybe up between 50 and 20% interest on it.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because I was reading a while back, one of the bosses at Barclaycard actually said, I would never get, one of these credit cards even for myself because the interest is so high.
Well, credit cards, it's easy money, and people get carried away. They buy something on a credit card, so they don't actually see the money going out.
And store cards as well.
And store cards, and they don't realise they have to pay it back. That's the trouble. And people sometimes they're not careful with their finances, and you don't pay it back, and the interest soon builds up, and it gets out of control. If you use a credit card just to buy purchases and then pay it off within 1 month or 6 weeks, then it's absolutely fine. But it's probably only 10% of people that do that.
Yeah. But what's your advice, for example? Of course, let's look at the time of the year where people are like, because now we don't always only have Christmas and then the sales. Now we have the Black Friday thing. So you spend before, you spend during and after the season. What would be your advice for couples who have children or not, or maybe don't have any children, but they are feeling the pressure to please people?
Well, I think firstly you should have a budget, so you should know exactly what all your outgoings are and exactly how much you earn per month, and also not get pressurized into spending money. If you can't afford it, don't be embarrassed. If you can't afford buying something, spoiling someone, don't do it, because you'll get yourself into trouble.
Indeed.
And people get themselves into trouble by overspending.
Wow, it's true. So it's so much common sense. I mean, there isn't much to say when it comes to, having to budget. You just have to know what you have coming in. Yeah, and don't spend more than what you
basically have to know what's coming in and what's going out. Most people don't know what's going out. They don't know what their utility bills are, what they spend on entertainment, on clothes, and basically don't overspend, because once you overspend, it just spirals out of control. And especially nowadays, if you buy presents, especially with children, you want to please them, but the presents now are so expensive.
Yeah.
You know, children have mobile phones, computers, and these things cost hundreds of pounds. And unfortunately, some parents, they don't refuse. They just give, and they can't afford it.
Maybe it's a good time to teach the kids that, you know, money is really, you know, it's difficult to earn money and you need to earn it.
Well, half the problem nowadays, I think, with families are that the children are spoilt. I mean, that's only it's a product of the parents. The parents don't say no. And so the children ask, and the parents give. So you can only blame the parents.
Indeed.
And that is it. And also because they want to keep up with the next door neighbour, the Joneses, you know.
Let me ask you something. Maybe, you know, it's half your opinion, and also professionally speaking, what you think of this. For example, we speak to many couples who are facing problems, financial problems.
Sure.
And we often find, after talking to them, and we can tell that one of them grew up in an environment where they were taught, you know, you only spend what you have. You don't have, you don't spend. But the other one maybe grew up in the city, and, you know, I can pay later and I can have this and that. What do you advise couples who, I mean, because I'm sure you've come across people who got into trouble, and it kind of came, you know, between their relationship. What would you think is the right thing to do? Because we did advise people on camera when we were recording earlier, that, you know, you've got to meet halfway. You can't always spend. You need to learn with the other.
Sure, well, if you're a couple and you love each other, you have to compromise. And you can't let one of them, if one of them overspends, the other one has to say it can't be done, because if you overspend, they get into debt, and the debt can affect the relationship in the end.
Right. So basically, it's simple.
It's simple.
You just have to not spend. There's no magic thing.
There's no magic thing. You shouldn't overspend, and you should only buy if you can afford it, really.
Okay.
Or if you use a credit card, pay it off within a month or 6 weeks. So
let's look at a different scenario now. Let's say that someone is watching us now and he is in real trouble, and like the couple we interviewed earlier on the program. They got married, and a few years later they bought a house, and then they got really excited because they wanted to buy a car that matches the house, and the whole furniture and all that.
Sure.
And they ended up with many credit cards, many debts. I mean, what is the best way to manage buying a house and having what you need without going over the top? With a salary that's not very high, because, you know, not many people earn lots of money, like, you know.
Well, obviously everyone wants their own property, their own home, when you buy a house, obviously you know what the mortgage is, all right? So you know what the mortgage is going to be, but you also want to make sure you know what all the outgoings are, the utilities. You have to pay for insurance, buildings insurance, council tax, contents insurance. And also people should be aware that mortgage rates can move. So they might be paying £500 a month now or £1,000 a month, but if interest rates move, they could go up £200 or £300 a month, and they should budget for that when they buy the house, because that also people get into trouble. Okay. They go to the maximum and they don't allow for any movements in interest rates, and interest rates do move.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Unless they do a fixed mortgage, which can be fixed for 2, 3 or 5 years, but most people will go for the cheapest type of mortgage for the maximum. And then if interest rates move, like now, interest rates are the lowest they've ever been, so they can only go one way up. They won't go up much, I don't imagine, but they can only go up. Yeah. But someone who's bought a property now and has got maximised out, if the interest rates go up, they
need to be prepared.
Yeah, they won't be prepared.
But if someone is watching us now, like I said, and has a lot of debt, like credit card debts
Yeah.
and store cards, and they want to start the new year, like, you know what, I hear what you say and I agree with you. How can I start afresh? How can I resolve? What's the best thing to do? To see a professional? To go to the bank?
Well, if they're in that position, they're a little bit careless, all right? So the best, and it's a New Year's resolution, and unfortunately New Year's resolutions don't last more than about 4 weeks. In February, everyone is forgotten. If they're serious about it and they have serious debts, they should see a professional. Yeah, they should go to the bank, see a financial advisor.
But not ignore the debt.
No,
and the
no.
less
If they
scam.
ignore the debt, it only gets worse. That's the trouble. People ignore debt,
I know this
and they
might
bury
sound
their
like,
head in the sand, and they think it's going to go away, and it doesn't go away. It just gets
yeah,
worse.
it sounds like silly, my question, but this happens to many people. They are afraid of going through their statements and see what's really...
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So stop ignoring and address the problem.
You come across people that they don't open their letters because they don't want to open their letters because they know it's going to be bad news, so they just bury their head in the sand. Or they open their statements but they don't read it. It's like, oh, well, I'll sort it out next week. You have to sort it out here and now.
I agree with you 100%. And just to finalize, let's say that someone who's watching us is earning the minimum salary,
Yeah.
or somewhere along that,
Sure.
and just got married. Of course it helps because now it's two people, not just one person earning. What do you think is the best way? I know this sounds repetitive, but I'm sure it will help people at home. What can you do to actually manage your money wisely? Do you write things down? Do you... Because some people, I'll tell you something, some people will just use their card and say, no, I remember I've got this much in the bank. They don't see the actual cash, so they...
I think, firstly, what people have to do is they have to write down, they have to know exactly what their outgoings are. People don't. Electricity, gas, water, paying for your car, petrol, food. People don't realise how much their outgoings are. So they know what they should, well, not everybody knows how much they earn either. I come across people, they don't know how much they earn, but you should look and see exactly what you earn each month, what your outgoings are, so you can match them up and take it from there. But people don't. They don't realise, a lot of people don't realise they overspend because they don't know how much money is coming in.
You know, something that I was thinking the other day, because we're talking about this money thing. Coffee shops, for example.
Yeah.
Coffee shops, you go to a coffee shop every morning because it's quite trendy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you earn a minimum salary, half of your salary is gone.
Yeah, soon adds up over the week, over a month. If you're buying a coffee for £2.50, maybe twice a day, it's £5 a day, £25 a week, basically, and it's money that it's wasted.
So,
if you can afford it, fair enough, and it's a luxury to do it once in a while, but if you're on a tight budget, don't go to a coffee shop, because if you go to a coffee shop, you'll buy a sandwich, whatever. You don't spend money just to keep up with your colleagues or whatever, because you'll get yourself in trouble.
Exactly.
Over a coffee.
And just to finalise, I promise, because I had so many questions for you. What are your main tips on saving? On any level, like with a mortgage, with your groceries, what would you advise people?
Well, I think also a lot of people aren't canny shoppers. People will buy something and not realising what the price of it is, all right? And where they can go somewhere else and get the same thing a little bit cheaper, all right?
Well, I love shopping around.
You should look at people, and you'll get a bill and they don't realise how much. It could be £10 or £20, and people, I'll just spend it, I'll just pay for it. Where you can, if you took time and looked at what you spend, you could probably halve it, and also don't overspend. Really don't overspend, and that is it. And just be a bit more sensible when it comes to spending.
Mm-hmm. It's about maturity, and you're not a child anymore.
No, you're not a child. You have to take
survive and make sure.
I think people don't take responsibility, and that is it. And even when they do get into debt, they as I said, they bury their heads in the sand, or they think they can just run away from it. and it's really not their fault. You know, it's
It can
not
be
their
very devastating.
yeah, but you can't. You can only spend what you have, and that is it.
Okay, so there you have it. Excellent advice from Nigel here, and I couldn't agree more with you. And I personally, because I would like to share my personal tips as well, are very similar to what he just said. Not at least, every month I sit down and I write down what are the expenses I have, and I pay all my bills or leave that money aside. And then if I have anything left, I will budget per week and I will see if I can afford it or not. This is something that helps me stay focused on what I have and not overspend. And I'm not shy to go to different supermarkets.
Sure.
Not just, you know, the top ones. I go anywhere, whatever is, I find good deals. And I agree with you, we need to shop around and be wise. So that's what I do, and it works.
Just be wise.
So what about rainy day funds? What do you have to say about
Definitely,
that?
people should always have some money put away for emergencies, because it does happen. And, you know, emergencies do happen for whatever reason, and people don't have money. They have no savings, and if they suddenly need to find some money for their children, or something breaks down, they have nothing, and then they will probably go into debt to get money, which makes it even worse. So the most important thing is you should have a rainy day fund, a little bit of money tucked away that's only to be used in emergencies.
You know, something that I learned with a friend, and I never forget. Well, I don't say that I practice it to the, you know, all the time, because it's quite difficult. But something she said about rainy days is she has her own credit card. So every month she uses a bank account she doesn't usually use. And she puts some money aside, and it's her credit card. So whenever she withdraws some cash, she knows she has to put it back with interest. So that's a, you know, scheme for rainy days, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think we live in a society where people want things now. They don't want to wait anymore and save up and all that. So,
and I think with having a rainy day fund, it's important also to try and save each month, even if it's a small amount, because you will soon forget about it, and it will add up, and you will earn more money, and that money, what you've been spending each month, putting it in savings, you won't miss. True. And it's always there.
And it gives you a sense of fulfillment.
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
I managed to discipline myself, and I'm proud of myself that I managed to save this amount of money.
I think it's security. There's a little bit of security, and it can only make you feel better.
So, Mr. Welch, something else I would like to quickly talk about is we've got the couples, they are young, spending, no responsibility, and that's why they want to break up, and there's divorces and stuff. But let's say that they are together and they understand the importance of saving, like you said, for the rainy day. What about, you know, when you get old and you need to have some money aside for that?
It's not difficult, but when you're young, and even you'll feel sensible when you save money or whatever, if you're in your 20s, 30s, even 40s, you think retirement is years away, ages, and it's something that a lot of people don't really think about, or they think, oh well, I'm too young, but you're never too young. And if you can start putting a little bit of money away when you're younger, again, it soon grows, and you won't miss it. And plus the fact, for pensions, you get valuable tax breaks on whatever you save, and you will need a nest egg. You will need an income in retirement. People are living longer, and you do have to. You don't want to retire and go and have a worse standard of living as you do now. And although it seems in the future, it is, if you can, try and start saving towards a pension.
I agree with you.
Because the years soon go.
They go very quickly. I mean, and I think it's a way of you rewarding yourself. Like
Absolutely.
you've worked your whole life.
You don't want to be poor in retirement, and you're
Exactly.
nowadays, because people live much longer, you're going to be living for a long, long time. So you don't
want to
be,
travel, you want to
Yeah,
enjoy your
sure,
days. And
Sure.
Okay, so here's a very wise advice for you at home. And that's it for now. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
giving us this interview, Mr. Welch. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.